So first of all, I'll introduce myself. I am Andrea Harrower. I am the Communications and Events Coordinator at Greener Kirkcaldy. We're doing this workshop as Climate Action Fife in partnership with the Fife Climate Hub and Fife Communities Climate Action Network. Climate Action Fife is a Fife-wide partnership project bringing together individuals, communities, local government and businesses to tackle the climate emergency and make Fife a greener and a fairer place to live. Fife Climate Hub is a Fife Communities Climate Action Network project. The hub empowers community-led action on the climate crisis, and it builds capacity of existing community groups working on climate, delivering stronger collaboration and reaching beyond the climate engaged to grow a diverse network across Fife. So just an introduction to myself. I'm Andrea Harrower. Like I said, I'm the Communications and Events Coordinator at Greener Kirkcaldy, who's one of the partner organisations of Climate Action Fife. Also here today is the communications lead at Greener Kirkcaldy, Rory Syme, who will sort of be assisting me today with the sort of tech side of things. So I'll go through the agenda and then we've got a little session just to get everyone warmed up. We'll do some introductions. We'll then talk about how to get started with Canva. So if you've never used Canva before, you're very new to it, then we'll be talking about setting it up, the templates that you can use, the design features and elements. And then we'll sort of dive a bit further into creating content, sort of design rules to keep an eye on, how to make videos, and utilising some of the AI features like Magic Studio. So that's pretty much the summary of what we're up to today. So first of all, if you're starting straight from scratch, what is Canva? And it's a really good and powerful and intuitive graphic design tool that you can use, and it's free to use online. You can just use it in Google or whatever file explorer you're using, whatever internet explorer tool you're using. It's great for creating social media content, so if that's something that you're doing quite frequently, it's definitely worth getting into. It's also ideal for collaborative working. You can set up teams. There's templates for most sort of types of files. So like, for example, Instagram posts, Facebook posts, A4 documents. There's a lot of templates that sort of fit into that, and really good searchability to find a template that can get you started on your design. And importantly, it is free to use. There is a pro version, and I'll go into that a bit more in a second, but the basic version of Canva is free to use. So yeah, free versus pro. So in the free version, that's sort of basics. There's still 1 million templates that you can use. There's 1,000 design types, millions of stock photos, and some AI features as well that you can get included. And it comes with 5 GB of cloud storage as well. So the pro version is unlimited with your templates. There's over 100 million photos, videos, graphics, and audio that you can access. So you just get that sort of wider, more premium selection of materials. If you've got sort of like logos and brand colours, you can set that up in the pro version as well. Up to 100 versions of a brand kit that you can set up. So that your logos and your colours that you use frequently are all stored in one easy to access place. It's really easy to resize designs and even translate them as well in the pro version as well. And there's other sort of features like background remover on images, additional AI tools, and some social media scheduling features as well. And the terabyte of cloud storage, so a lot more cloud storage there. And before you think I'm trying to sell you a pro version of Canva, if you're a registered charity or a not-for-profit organisation, you can actually fill in an application and get the pro subscription for free, and have access to all that. We've managed to do that within Greener Kirkcaldy. I realise the price I've got down there is £99 per year. I've not actually re-looked at the prices since recently, so it could be a bit higher than that at the moment. So yeah, in the pro version, I mentioned just there that you can have bespoke branding kits. So it means you can upload a logo into the brand kit sort of section of Canva, and when you upload the logo, it'll actually automatically pull all the colours off of the logo for you and store them as a brand for you. And you can also select any preferred fonts that you would like to use. So they're quick and easy to sort of go back to. You've sort of got that consistency there of what colours and what fonts that you're using. And when you've done that, that is you've created your basic brand kit. And yeah, it's useful for quickly generating flyers and other content based on templates. Something you can do quite easily is when you've got a template in place, you can actually click the sort of shuffle button on your brand kit colours, and it'll change the template into the colours of your brand. And you can shuffle that a few times to try and get something that looks good, and then you can still further customise it from there. But it's a really quick and easy way to just start that sort of creation process and that ideas process, so you're not starting from a blank sheet of paper and not sure where to go, essentially. So another thing that is available in both the free and pro version of Canva that I mentioned is templates. So on the right-hand side of this slide, there is sort of an example of a couple of templates that you can access, and there's all sorts of different styles. You can sort of see that each of these have very different styles, and there's several that you can get access to. But you will notice that there's some of these little crowns. That's when you know that a resource is, or a template is, a premium or a pro version. So this brand marketing strategy presentation, that's a template that exists and it's free to use, whereas all of these other ones sort of that are on display here are the pro version. So there's definite sort of more access, but even with the free version, you can access something like this presentation, and there's a lot of really good free versions of templates as well. And yeah, so you can just search even just what you want to make. So it's a flyer about a community event. That's what you can type into the search, and then it'll generate some templates that it thinks is relevant to that, and you can sort of have a little look through those. So you can add, remove, and edit certain elements. So when you set up a template, all of these sort of, so like that bit of text here, the logo, all of these little elements that go into it are removable and replaceable. So even if you don't like everything about a template, you can select one that you like most of, or even some of, and go, well, I might remove these 3 things and replace them with X, Y, and Z. And elements are things like icons, photos, shapes, graphics, photos, videos, sort of segments, and audio as well as an element that you can access through Canva. So on the getting started sort of side of things, here is some information links. Just to say the slides will be sent round after the workshop, so you can get access to that and scan the QR codes or click the links. And that'll give you a more in-depth guide on getting started. There's only so much to sort of cover in this, but these guides are really handy to read. And sort of link you to just getting signed up how to apply for a non-profit free account, and then a little bit of a beginner guide, which goes really into depth on that, getting set up and getting everything pieced together. So I hope that's been a bit useful. Is there any questions at the moment on how to set up your Canva account and how to get these basic things in place?
Can I just ask, Andrea, so I opened up Canva or searched Canva on my laptop here, and the first thing it asks you is, what will you be using Canva for? And you've got the options of a student, a large company, personal, small business, non-profit, or teacher. Is that, where would I start there?
So it really does depend on what it is that you are using it for. So it depends on which one you think your organization would mostly apply to.
Okay.
Um,
Does it matter? Does it then select or determine what I get access to given what I choose?
No, it's just market research for them, really.
Right.
So they
Okay.
just want a profile of who's
Thank you.
using their account. But if
Yeah.
you select, so if you are a not-for-profit, I would definitely recommend selecting that, so then it would back you up when you're then doing your application to sign up as a non-profit. Gosha?
Sorry, I just
okay.
wondered whether you know the non-profit, do you have to be registered charity? Because like community groups who are not registered charities, can they have free access to Canva? Or is it just specific non-profits? Because I tried to go into as a community group in my local area and it did not recognize it. So you need to obviously be in register of charities. Is that correct?
Yeah, so you do. They just
Yeah.
need that little bit of evidence to prove that you're
Okay.
not for profit, and
Mhm.
so it can be a little bit harder for community groups that aren't officially registered.
Mhm. Okay.
But they can at least get started with a free version of the account. And that still gives them quite a lot of access to some things. A lot of the features, at least. One thing to say is if you are a not-for-profit and you do apply and your application gets rejected and you're not really sure why, and you have uploaded the proof, I would just reapply or appeal it, because sometimes they just don't recognise it straight away. We had to put in for it a couple of times and then we were successful. So just to say, don't get disheartened if it gets rejected the first time round, basically. Anything else at this stage? Great. So I'll move on now to the sort of a bit more in depth about actually creating content on Canva. So there are some design rules that sort of we apply as I would recommend applying just as a simple thing to make your designs accessible and sort of bit more pleasing on the eye as well. We spoke a little bit about templates, and yeah, it's just sort of picking that right template that you think that would work best with what you're trying to promote or what you're trying to create. One thing I would say is definitely not cramming things together, looking at your spacing, and making sure that you've not got like lots of things crammed together on a poster and making it look really busy. I would also recommend using colours that complement each other. Something that exists is the Canva colour wheel. And there's also a really good Adobe tool called Color Checker that you can use to see if the contrast of colours that you're using is accessible and also just complement each other. So I can send those two links alongside the presentation when I send that over by email. But it's really good just to get your mind thinking about good colour contrasts. Sometimes you get designs where you actually find it quite hard to read the text just because the colours sort of clash a little bit. sort of mixes in with spacing a little bit, avoid overkill, just not worrying about filling all the space. Sometimes the space is fine. It helps highlight, if you leave space around something, it helps highlight the main point that you're trying to communicate with your design. As well, text alignment. The eye naturally travels from left to right in most cases, especially in the Western world. So I think for like lists or paragraphs, I would recommend sort of left aligning your text. But if it's just a couple of lines or a title, center alignment's absolutely fine on that. I'd also recommend thinking carefully about what fonts you're going to naturally use in your designs. So sans serif type fonts are the best, just for accessibility. And you can sort of see in the top right of this slide that I've got wording that says, "Can you read this?" And then under that, "How about this?" And you can clearly see the sort of more simple text is much more readable. And you're not sort of trying to squint your eyes quite as much when trying to read it. The top one does look really nice if you're not trying to read it. Like, it is actually quite a nice style, but when you're thinking about accessibility and trying to get people to engage and be able to read what you're putting out, then something a bit more standard and quite straightforward is a really good way to do that. I think as well, using photos is really good. We found that a lot when you've got people, especially in your photos, doing something, sort of doing an action, that's really good in terms of trying to get people engaged with what you're doing and sort of demonstrate how it would go. And sometimes sort of elements of people doing an action can be really good, but real people in a photo, there's just something really good about that. And the most important thing is to just experiment. Definitely experiment with what you're doing in Canva and share it around people within your group or friends and get a little bit of feedback here and there as well, just to see what they sort of think, or if they're able to read it really well, or if what their eye catches first, and if that's the thing you want their eye to catch first, and just sort of assess that as well. So that's some sort of elementary sort of design rules that I would stick to when creating something like a poster or a social media graphic, especially. I'm going to dive into a little bit of how to make a video in Canva. That is obviously slightly more complex, but it is quite easy to do in the sort of most basic sense. So it's really good for short social media videos. You can also take advantage of animated graphics in Canva. So you can actually filter when you're searching graphics in Canva. You can sort of search them and filter it by animated. And that means, like this one in the bottom right corner here, you get a sort of animated little design there as well. But the main thing, I know this is about Canva and it's about how to edit in Canva, but when recording a video, just to try and get as much of it right at the point of recording. So just making sure the sound's good when you're recording, and always recording more than you need is really good in terms of, you can always cut it down, but it's really hard to then get the camera out again and record more if you're missing stuff as well. And yeah, just layering things on top of each other. And going back to the second point as well, you can actually add effects to any text that you're using in Canva. So you can add sort of like, for example, there's a typewriter effect that you can use, which is really good. And several other sort of features that sort of makes your text movable, and it's really good for if you're adding subtitles as well. You can sort of do it that way as well. So yeah, I'll actually, if I flick back to the slide before, and then when I flick forward, you can sort of see point 2, that the text sort of comes in as like a typewriter effect, which is pretty cool and something that you can add when you're doing a video. So just a little bit of an example of a video that we did for our fruit tree campaign, which is actually coming around, has come around again for this year, on how to plant a tree. Last time I did this, the sound didn't work, so it could be possible that you might not be able to hear it, but hopefully you can. Was everyone able to hear that at all? No, that's fine. I'll just sort of briefly say that what happened there was we actually managed to find a sound effect for birds that similarly matched the birds that were actually present in the garden that day. Just as a little sort of intro of nature sounds and that. And also it's just sort of the audio of me talking through the sort of first elements of planting a tree there, and it's sort of a mixture of in-place video, but also you were able to put elements on top of that and add text and animated graphics in there to sort of mix through and really demonstrate what was happening there. Now, bearing in mind, I was able to do that after having used Canva for quite a while, so it's just sort of uploading your video in there and playing around with the elements to sort of get the most out of that. It's really good for if you want to upload a video and there's someone being interviewed and you can put a graphic on top that sort of has their name and their job title as a most basic sense. And it means you can sort of put a logo over as a little watermark on your video as well. It's really good for adding those sorts of things into there. So is there any questions about sort of the design elements and creating videos at this stage before I move on to the sort of more Magic Studio and AI features? No. If we've got time at the end as well, I might sort of open up a design and sort of show you a little bit about how Canva works as well. So in the Magic Studio, there are elements of this that the users on the free account can use. They are very limited, but you can still access some of them. There's something called the Magic Media app that you can use in designs, and that creates AI generated photos and videos. And you can also use it to sort of grab elements of a design away from other elements of a design and isolate it and that sort of thing as well, which can be really good. You can also extend your background. That is a little bit dependent on how complex the background is, how successful that can be. As with much AI, it's sort of developing, and the sort of some of it's better than others at certain points, basically. So I wouldn't sort of use it as like a hard and fast way to make your images bigger. And there's also magic design features as well. So this is an example of some AI generated content that I was able to make in the Magic Studio. So in the text is the prompts that I gave Canva to create these. So the first one there is an oak tree on a hill in the countryside with a purple and orange sunset in the background. And you can see the more descriptive you are, the more sort of accurate it's going to be to what you want. So that was really pretty close to what I was looking for, actually. And it looks relatively sort of good from this point of view. I wouldn't recommend using AI generated images all the time. It's really great to get proper images of like your community doing action, especially photos of people. AI is notoriously awful at generating people. But things like landscapes and nature, if you're looking for that and you just can't quite find the right image, you can sort of put a prompt in like that and get something a bit closer to what you're looking for. As well, I put one in that says daffodils swaying in the wind in a woodland area. As a still image, looks okay, but when you press play on the video, you can see that it's a little bit just something that's slightly off with it. So video is a little bit dodgy still, but you can still get some really good things out of it if in some cases. But yeah, that one's still a little bit, there's just something not quite right about the way the daffodils are swaying, but it's pretty close. So a little bit of a summary at the moment before I go into Canva and sort of show you a little bit about how it works, is to just think about your design, your font, your spacing, and your colours. Make sure you're taking advantage of the text and the animated elements when creating a video. AI is starting to become a useful tool, but as demonstrated, it's obviously not all the way there. It's not going to be able to do everything for us yet. Maybe that's a good thing, who knows? But it's becoming a really useful tool. It's even just for inspiration as well. And we'll actually have another workshop that'll go more into depth on that in a few weeks' time. And yeah, the best thing to do is have a bit of fun with Canva. Just find a bit of time to have a little play around with it yourself, not with any particular objective, just to sort of see how it works and just create something you quite like the look of. And then you can start applying these skills that you're learning from Canva into your sort of promotional materials for your community groups and your organisations as well. So is there any questions at this point before I go on to just a sort of little 5-10 minute demonstration? So first of all, I'll sort of show you a little bit of what a brand kit looks like. So we've got some logos in there. And we also have our colours set up. So this is, we've got our Langspoon Community Kitchen, which has sort of 2 logo sets. So we've uploaded there and we've put the colours in there. And I'll sort of show you how that shuffle element works in just a second. And we've got our Climate Action Fife colours in there as well. And we've got our fonts. So Nanito is quite a basic one. Our More Sugar one is a little bit more fun. So a little bit more childlike, really good for stuff like family fun sort of events or something a bit more lighthearted. Still relatively easy to read as well. And then you can just sort of click on the element and just press the delete button, or there's a little sort of bin on there that you can use to delete. So what I'll do first is I'll go into the design. And as you can see here, this is where you've got your templates. Does anyone want to sort of give me an idea for what to do a template for? Just throw out anything.
Silent disco.
Silent disco, perfect. So here you go. This gives us some ideas. I really thought there'd be like a really good silent disco template, to be honest, but apparently there's not. Let's go with retro disco. And then there's 3 pages, but I'll just apply the first page as a little bit of a poster. So there you go. And then that's sort of this template in place that already exists. And then you can click on any of these elements that sort of exist in there. You can change the colors individually to match other colors in the design. So let's go like a brown. And that changes that outside one to a brown color. And yeah, so each of these elements are individual. You can double click to edit text. You can remove or move any of these to where you want them to. So if you want the clicker up here. And this is probably about as cluttered as I would have a poster. I wouldn't really have many more elements than this if I was making a poster of this sort of style.
So could you click on retro and change that to say silent individually? Yeah.
Yep. So yeah,
Cool.
you can sort of click in there and I could write silent.
Excellent.
And then I could go into elements and I could search headphones.
Yeah.
And then you're in here and you can find a really cool set of headphones that might work for a silent disco. I like these neon ones. So you could replace maybe one of these smiley faces. You can shrink that down. You can toggle the little rotation symbol, get that rotated and bring it down here. And then
Yeah.
you've got,
Could have put that on the smiley face.
I could have put it on the smiley face, but then I guess we're getting to the clutter territory at that point.
No worries.
So that's sort of a good example there. A lot of these templates will have a little space that says your logo. You don't have to put your logo there. You can just sort of delete that and put your logo, if you want to put your logo on it, put it anywhere that you think it fits. So yeah, we've got our little silent disco poster now. For example, we could go into our brand colors and let's say we want to create it in the Climate Action Fife brand colors. I can click this little shuffle button and it should do that.
Oh, yeah.
Some elements you can't change the color of, so the headphones, they're still that pink color because it's an element where the color is locked. It's not a changeable color on it, it just exists the way it is, it's static. But I could click the shuffle again and it'll try it again. A little bit more black and white with just a touch of red there. Shuffle it one more time. And then once more, I think.
There'd be lots of specials at that disco. Very two-tone.
Oh yeah, of course. The ska silent disco. There we go. So that's some of the basic things you can do as well. You can technically also draw, but my personal online drawing skills are not great, so I've never really used that feature that much. But yeah, you can go to Magic Media. This is where you can sort of generate your images like the AI image that I generated. So I could say people having fun at a silent disco. Now, it won't be the best in terms of the fact I've said it's people, and it'll even warn you itself that sometimes it warns you that it's not very good at doing people. Now, this does take a little while. There you go. We've got these sort of images that you can use. You can also be a bit more specific. So I could have said photoreal style, and then that means it would have tried to generate it in like a style of a photograph, but you can do like a sort of cartoon version as well. Just watch out for the people not being whole people, missing fingers, missing hands. That is the only problem with stuff like that at the moment. So yeah, don't recommend people, but static objects it can sometimes do generally reasonably well at. One thing that you can actually also do is have different apps that you can access in Canva, which don't appear to be shown up. There we go. My apps. And you can create your own sort of QR codes, which are great for posters. So I can sort of click on the QR code app, silentdisco.com, let's say. You can customize the color, so I could create a sort of pink color, let's say, to match the headphones. And then I would be able to generate the code. And there you go. You've got a QR code that takes you to wherever. It probably is a real website. So it takes you to whatever website you're trying to direct people to. And you can just create that to any size you want. You can add text on top that says book here, or anything you really want to do with it. It's very much sort of click and drag sort of thing. So if we go back to elements, you've got shape, recently used, we've got shapes, we've got sort of graphics that you can use, and it sort of shows you recommendations sometimes based on what you've already got on your poster. Has some feature stuff as well. But you've also got stickers, photos, so you can search in photos, or you can search anything really. So I searched snake recently because we did a Lunar New Year post on social media. So you've got graphics there. You've got photos. That one doesn't even have any background. You can find them in here. So obviously we've got this one, and these sort of collection of 4 here are all available to free users. And anyone with these wee crowns on it means that they're for premium there as well. Is there anything else anyone wanted to me show you while I'm on here? Actually, I'll show you the, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Could I ask you something, Andrea? What do you do if you wanted to make a graph in there?
We actually do have in all, if you clear this and you're looking at your elements, you actually have charts.
Okay.
And you can go into charts and you can basically create any chart that you really want. So we'll do a line chart, for example. I'll add a page and move on to that. There you go. I've not really had much experience in charts myself, so it'd be worth just having a little look at it yourself, really.
Okay.
Can that be linked to like a spreadsheet, or you can import a spreadsheet data and stuff, and so you
It
can.
does look like it.
Yeah.
So when you double click on the data, it brings up this, and you can edit the data in this, but also it does say you can add data, and then you can update it from add it in from a CSV. Like I say, I have no experience in doing that myself. I've never played around with the chart feature as of yet, but it's definitely something worth exploring if you think it's going to work for you in terms of displaying your data. I think it would be a really interesting tool and something I can look into for future times that I'm delivering a workshop like this. So that
Okay,
is really
thanks.
useful.
I just mentioned it because I did another webinar on Tuesday that was delivered by Matter of Focus, who have the software called OutNav that Climate Action Fife are using. And they had some quite neat examples of good reporting where there were some really nice little graphs in there, and they were saying you could do that on Canva. So
yeah. Yeah, so you'd be able to put your chart into Canva, and then you'd be able to export it either as an image or a PDF or any sort of files format that would suit you.
Oh, thanks.
That's right. Gosha?
So I'm interested in, could you demonstrate resizing? So if you've got different posters, how to select making different sizes, and just based on one design, And also, can you edit a JPEG inside, or when you download it into a Canva, it's just used as object? Can you actually upload JPEG and edit it inside?
Yes, you can. I'm not going to click into uploads. It's just because they're the images that we personally use, so don't want to show you them. But there is this sort of at the side here, uploads. If you do click on that, there's a thing where you can upload your image and any of your images into that, and then you can bring them out into Canva as any other image in Elements, and you can apply any editing to that. So for example, if I bring this photo out, this is just the same if you uploaded an image and this is the one that you're now putting up. You can do things like background remover, that'll remove that green background. And now you've got this bowl all on its own. I'll undo that though. There's also other editing tools. So I was mentioning before the magic eraser, you can erase certain things. There's also the magic grab. So there's a click and a brush element to that. So you can brush over an area, or you can click and it actually separates some specific, it picks out some certain things. So I could remove the eggs from this. I could grab the eggs and then they would exist on their own. Couple of these elements, just because of the AI, they do take a little bit longer than just click and grab. So I can now take these eggs and put them over here. And you can do that with any image that you upload as well. So it sort of tries to fill the gap in the bowl. That's not the best at the moment, but the eggs are pretty good. And if you just needed some eggs from this photo, then there you go. And yeah, you can do that with any image that you upload into Canva yourself as well. One thing I'll show you just before the resizing and before we wrap up is adding animation to text, like I mentioned. So I can select animate. When I've selected the text, I can create it in typewriter mode. So then it would do that. If it was like you're creating like a sort of video version or a GIF, essentially. You can do different ones. It shifts in, ascends. You can sort of make the direction up or down. I quite like burst, but it's a bit invasive sometimes, depending on how much you turn it up. There you go. You can turn the intensity sort of up and down. So that's quite fun. You can make it bounce in or start off faint and come in like that. There's loads of different sort of things that you can play around with, see what you like, and see if it applies in different things. I'll remove the animation for now. And yeah, the final thing I'll show you is just resizing. So you can see it up in this top left corner here. It is a pro feature, unfortunately. So not everyone will be able to resize their documents like this. But you can create it in a custom size, or let's just say I want to make it a social media tile. Or even just a landscape Facebook post will do instead. So you can either resize it permanently, only resize that design, or you can copy and resize it. So that creates a copy of the document or of the design and creates a copy of it in that other aspect ratio, essentially. Then once it's ready, it lets you open it and it'll just open it in another tab. Now, there's often a little bit of playing about that does need done after you've resized it, just to create it a little bit differently, because it'll just actually sort of move things around. But as you can see, that's not in the corner anymore, neither is that. So you just have to do a little bit of replacing of things, and you might want it to look a little bit different for that certain platform anyway. So you can sort of spread these things out a little bit more. but it's just a quick sort of do that and just make things a bit bigger, move things around. And then there's not that much that's gone into creating it. I could put that onto one line.
And Andrea, sorry to butt in while you're doing that.
No, absolutely, go for it.
Could you show how to, like, if you put in a text box, how do you make the background of the text box a different color from, say you wanted the Sunday 20th of August to have like a blue background instead of the red. How do you change the color in the box?
So this isn't actually as a text box at the moment, but it is an element that exists. So if you go into elements, and you go into shapes and you create like, let's say a square, then it is a text box, and you can type, let's say Sunday 20th August in there. And then I could drag the box down to frame the text. And then in the sort of top bar here, you can see that it's grey, and I could create the background to be white instead. And then you've got your sort of box there.
Perfect. Yeah, I managed to get the box, but I couldn't change the color. Right. Okay.
Yeah. But if you add text in as itself, you can put a box in and move it around behind it.
Oh, okay.
I'll go just do that.
So I could sort of put that behind the Sunday 20th of August as a separate element as well, and just size it around it and change the colour from there as well.
Okay.
So it depends on what way you want to do it. If you initially want a text box with a background colour, just click in shapes and then put your text in. But if you've already put like a text in as a heading, I'd just put a square in and just sort of put it in a row. One thing that can happen is you'll want the box to be behind the text, but it'll actually go in front of it, like on Silent Disco there. If you right click, you can click layer and you can send that to the back or send it backwards, so then it would go behind. And that's the best way to just get your sort of layering sorted on that. But yeah, we're almost out of time. So is there any final questions before we just do the sort of outro? So I'll stop sharing my screen. Oh, Gosha?
Sorry, I did want to ask. So basically, when you've created your design, you save it, and there is an option that you can create some folders. Or didn't quite understand how the structure operates in Canva.
Yeah, so
I
there is
just wondered.
on the homepage there are sort of projects, and it sort of has, that's where your sort of cloud storage of all your projects are on your homepage, and you can create new folders and you can select designs to go in these folders.
Right.
But yeah, I can send a little bit more information around that. I just obviously didn't want to show you our one because some of the designs are internal, so I didn't really want to show you how that's works while I was screen sharing, but I can send some info on about that if you're interested. But thank you so much for coming, and yeah, I'll follow it up.